What's up, friendly neighborhood nerds? If you want to hear interviews from industry pros, get first looks, and have access to endless comic content, wake up. Please wake up. You're in a coma. Your mother misses you.
What's up, friendly neighborhood nerds? This is Judah Rad, and I got Robo Strange here, and also Respawn. We're also joined by Tim Seeley, and we have an awesome episode planned. We're going to talk about his Bloodshot run with Valiant, Revival, Moneyshot, Marvel's Shatterstar, Hack and Slash, G.I. Joe, Alice Cooper, Vampire the Masquerade, and Grayson. This guy has, yeah, we're covering a lot of ground. You've created a lot of cool stuff. We're stoked to talk about it. Just want to give a quick shout out. Thanks to Greg Katzman from Valiant for setting this up.
Thanks, Greg.
So, thank you, Greg.
Love you.
So without further ado, welcome to the show, Tim. How's it going?
Not too bad. Good to talk to you guys. It's a rainy day here in Chicago, and it's a little lonely, so it's good to have some humans to talk to besides this kitten who will probably bother us at some point.
So are you on Team Deep? Are you on Team Deep Dish or Team New York Style?
I mean, I'll eat pizza because it's fucking pizza, but I do Chicago style has its moments. When you want that kind of pizza, there's nothing, close in the New York style. But I'll eat pizza. I don't, I'm not that kind of guy. I don't take hard sides on most things, but definitely
You're not turning down pizza.
That's
I got
good.
you.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey,
I do. Chicago has my favorite pizza, which is this place called Pequod's, which is deep dish. That is my favorite. So it does have that little bump up, but I'll eat some New York shit anytime.
So before we continue, we know we're gonna see a little kitten in the picture. What's the story? Tell us the story with this kitten that we're gonna see eventually.
This is Bella because he looks like Dracula.
Nice.
I found him in the hedge in my house. I think somebody must have dumped him. And we decided to bring him in because of Halloween and he's black, and now he's our cat. I thought my wife is allergic to cats, so I thought we wouldn't be able to keep him, but he's cute and she fell in love with him, so now we have this thing.
Yep.
He won't leave me alone. All day he sits while I work on my lap. All day.
Oh,
That's awesome.
Pretty sure you're a wizard now, and that's your familiar. That's amazing.
I think that may be the case, yeah.
Awesome. So this Wednesday, on October 14th, Bloodshot number 9, which concludes this really insane burned arc, will be dropping. And we've been fortunate enough to receive an advance review copy. Let me tell you, folks, this arc ended pretty epically, and it also made me very excited for the next 3 issues. So, Tim, this run has been like... I've read the entire run, and it is like every issue is completely chock full of action. It's incredibly action-packed. What can fans expect from the series conclusion? And what's with the news we've been kind of hearing about KT and Wiggins from the movie joining the comic book canon?
Okay, let's see. So I wrote 9 so long ago that I have trouble remembering what's in it because that was pre-COVID and then everything went to hell. So yeah, the arc ends. We wrap up the burn stuff. I kind of got to do, my thesis on the series has always been that, Bloodshot is so dangerous to everyone that he even knows that he should just lock himself in a cement coffin and drop himself in the Marianas Trench and not.
Right.
And so this is kind of that situation where Bloodshot has to prove that he's more useful to save us than he is to hurt us. So that's kind of the wrap of that. And then the arc after this, we bring in the movie characters. It originally was going to come out when the movie came out, which would have timed out quite a bit better. But things go as they do, so it's a little bit later. But we use basically the setup of those characters from the movie. KT is an ex-Chainsaw sort of member, and Wiggins is this hacker dude that kind of gets himself in trouble, and Bloodshot has to help him out. So that's kind of he's ex-Project Rising Spirit, basically.
Cool. And not going to spoil it for anybody, but issue 9 ends with a pretty exciting little cliffhanger tease that I think people are really going to enjoy. I saw the preview pages for number 10. Valiant posted them, and spoiler alert: Bloodshot's gonna take a lot of bullets.
as he does, yeah.
Yeah, it's just three preview pages of Bloodshot getting fucking riddled with bullets.
Oh yeah, that's right. Is that he has like crazy long hair and stuff in that shot? He's all messed up. Oh yeah, okay, yes, I remember. Yeah. That's the art is really good in the next arc as well. So I'm happy that we finally got to start making comics again because just sitting there with that script undrawn was sort of getting to me after a while. So I'm glad.
I bet. What else? What else do you have planned? Do you have anything else planned for Valiant specifically? Anything that's gonna come down the road?
I mean, we did. I don't know what the plan going forward will be because things change for some of those publishers. I think with 2 months shutdown, that hurt a lot of publishers, and it kind of helped some other ones. And the ones that got hurt, I think were the ones that got pretty scared and sort of pulled back, and people who were sort of oblivious and just went forward like Vault and Image, we're actually sort of reaping the benefits of having less comics on the stand. But Valiant, I think, is slowly kind of building back up. I'm not sure exactly. Our plans were definitely scrambled because of that, and then the release of the movie and all that sort of stuff. But but I'm glad it's getting out now, and I'll get to wrap up the arc. And I'm really happy with it. It's as you said, it's a big action movie. I just wanted to be a big ass action movie with lots of sort of emotional beats. That's what I was going for.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to do some post meta evaluation of the character. Let's do a big epic story about a guy and explore his feelings about being a weapon and just have a good time with it. So that was the approach.
That's awesome.
I like it. I like the relationship that he has with I'm drawing a blank on her name, but
Eidolon.
Yeah, Eidolon. Yeah. I love I like kind of that interpersonal personal connection between them, and I like how it's not necessarily a deconstruction. I feel like so many things nowadays almost feel like they have to be a deconstruction of a character, and I like how this one really just kind of allows us to enjoy all the bloodshottiness, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, I want it to be accessible. I think and Jeff Lemire already did the deconstruct, and he did a good job. And I don't want to do what someone else did. So, so the approach of just being having it being a ever building action movie. My hope was you came out from the movie and you pick up the comics, you think the movie is epic, and then you read the comics and you're like, wait, this is like the movies, except it's 10 times more. It's 10 times, and so that was the approach. And I hope it worked. I think, obviously things went a little sideways, but that happens.
I know Ree's got a question, but just kind of one last follow-up on Valiant. So just entering Fantasyland for a second, since nothing's really concrete, which Valiant character would you be interested in writing for going forward, since Bloodshot is going to be wrapping up in the next few months?
I mean, I like all their stuff. I think I would want to do either a horror character or a humor character. So I love Archer and Armstrong. I would love...
Ooh.
And that was the Valiant comic that I liked the most when I was a kid. And I love the one that
Van Lente did a great job.
Van Lente did an amazing job. I love those characters. And funny characters are probably more comfortable for me in general. I would love to do that. Otherwise, Shadow Man or any of the horror characters too. There's I was reading Valiant stuff for fun before I took the job. So
awesome.
They have a lot of stuff that I would love to play with. Exo, I got to do a little bit in issue 8.
Right.
Yeah. I love him. He's, basically Conan with Iron Man armor. That's cool. So, that character would be fun for me. All that sort of, anything that I read as a kid, I would be super into. And then all the humor stuff, I think I'd be into.
I think anybody familiar with the work hears Shadow Man and Tim Seeley, and that's just what needs to happen next.
I mean,
after Cullen, though.
They originally called me,
right.
But way back when, I mean, I guess now it's 2 years ago. But when I got the call from Valiant, they said, "Hey, we want to work with you on something." I was like, "Oh, it'll be Shadow Man." And then it was Bloodshot. I was like, "Really? Okay."
Nice. Awesome. So speaking of why I said that, Vampire the Masquerade comic book. So I know that you have a five issue plan. This is what I like to call the new hotness. To use a syntax that Judah likes. I haven't read a negative review yet as I go through, and usually when I like something a lot, I try to go look for those because I'm like, maybe I'm missing something. But everyone loves the book. I love what I've read so far. After the 5 issues are done, do you have more to write on this? Are you planning on staying on?
Oh yeah, I'm working on issue 8, I think, today.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, it is.
We're definitely we're sticking with it. It was success, like you said. And I think it's hitting at the right time. I think people are looking for that kind of horror stuff, and Vampire Masquerade has an amazing history, obviously, and I think all the role playing stuff, that those classic role playing games are really coming back in a big way into the sort of into the public conscience. So I think this is a great time to do it. But we got an awesome team on it. We have backup stories by Tina Howard and Blake Howard, and Deb Malam is drawing it. He's an awesome artist, and so I think Vault is doing a great job of publishing this thing and selling it. So I feel like we're just hitting the right time and the right spot with it. We pulled it off somehow.
Yeah,
I think.
It's really awesome. It's gory. It's interesting. It's really great. Sorry, I'm gushing. But so the horror element is super intense. But from what I read, I actually haven't personally played the game yet. But from what I've read from the people who have, it's perfect. Like, the story lines up with the game and the tone is all there. So did you play the game? Are you familiar with the game? Did you prep to write this, or how did you get it right?
So I've never played the game. I had the source books as a teenager. We used to play D&D, and I was always trying to get my buddies to play Vampire, and they wouldn't, because they were pretty much just want to play D&D and Shadowrun, I guess. And then so I had to set the books though, because they had this great Tim Bradstreet art, and I was kind of as a teenager, I was sort of into gothy mopey shit and vampires, obviously. So
right.
So I love the books. I love the world. I remember I bought a T-shirt at my first Chicago Comic-Con of Vampire Masquerade. I was wearing it all the time. I didn't, but I didn't know a lot about it besides what I read in the books. So I still haven't played the game. Now that I have a wife and a kid and 4 jobs, I will probably never play it.
Right.
But I, the world and stuff, I love the idea. I've always loved the idea that, to me, the game is about you get the gift finally of immortality, and you get to be cool and a vampire, and it sucks just as much as being alive. In fact, it sucks worse, because all the politics of life are there, except they're augmented. So
right.
None of you get to pretend that it's romantic and sexy, but it's actually sucks.
Its own hell.
And people in power are bigger dicks, and so I love that. I love that it was this sort of this urban approach to doing vampire stories. Most vampires live in the city, but there's this sort of outskirts vampire, and you can do all kinds of cool stuff. So, I was super happy to do it. I've been publishing Moneyshot at Vault, and they asked me about it. I was like, you gotta hold that for me. I'd really like to do it. So
for those that don't know at home, each of these issues have the game material included with it. So there's some backdrop to all that. So, question for you, Tim. Last one is: did you have any hand in writing any of that material that can be played, or is that separate?
Blake Howard writes all that stuff.
Awesome.
Blake is the expert in the game. That's Teeny Howard's husband and a writer himself, and he's been doing the backups with Teeny. And then, so he and I will talk about it, but he knows the rule stuff. He lives and breathes that game, so I let him do all the hard work, because I'm not this is true of anything. I'm never the technical guy. I'm never rules and minutia. I'm always shit at that stuff.
Right.
But big picture, I can totally do. So,
Nice.
Blake is doing all the excellent work on that stuff, and I understand people are enjoying them. So
cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
They're really, really sweet. By the way, this is just a side note. There is a free documentary on YouTube about the beginning of that role-playing game, Vampire the Masquerade, and how it all started, and how they got that amazing artist that you just talked about. Sorry, I forget his name, but the art in those books, fucking out of this world. Such incredible art. So go check that out if you haven't seen it. It's really good. A few years back, Tim, I walked into my LCS on my birthday, and I was like, I'm gonna make it rain. What should I buy? And Mark was like, hey, you should buy this. And I was like, this looks really good. I'll buy it. And every single person that I've loaned this to or talked to about it loves this series. It is just
I'm glad to hear
off
it.
the chain, off the chain.
She calls it her
Speaking of-
top ramen period of life, right around there, because she couldn't afford anything else.
Right.
I say that wasn't cheap, and those are heavy. So you had to walk out of the store with all that big pile of books. So
That's right,
I'm sorry
and walked
about
it
that.
home, and I skipped home, and I was loving the entire time. But we actually had a streamer that's a friend of ours, or a friend of the show, ask about this series too, because we put in the chat, like, does anyone have any questions for these people that we're talking to? And Blerd Without Fear, YouTuber, Twitch streamer, he said, I'm a huge fan. My question, what inspired you to write Revival?
A couple things. I mean, the sort of origin of how we came up with it was that I was kicking around this idea of doing a crime story set in my hometown, and I was studio mates with Mike Norton, and he wanted to do something for Image Comics, and so we also sort of had this idea of doing a non-zombie story. I think was kind of the approach we wanted to do. Like, what if people came back to life and you just had to deal with them instead of, you don't have to club them to death, but they're in your life, and if you already mourn their loss, or if you already moved on from your life, now they're here. Yeah, now you've got to deal with this, and so that was kind of we had these two separate ideas, and we were talking to Thai food one day, and we're like, what if we stuck them together? And so we fused it, and that's where Rival came from. We originally called it Passover. Actually, that was the original name. Like from the Bible, sort of passed over the people who didn't die, but we came back to Revival's name, and we just started working on it because Mike had done the story called The Waiting Place, which was a small town in Wisconsin story. So I knew he was totally prepped and ready to draw some snow and sad people. So we just
Snow and sad people.
Yep, and somehow it worked for 48 issues, 47 issue series plus the Chew crossover. So that we want to do something that ended, and but our plan was like, let's do something where it's a mystery box sort of ending, but we know how it ends. It's unlike Lost, where they clearly had no idea. So we were like, let's go into this knowing how this ends. We set up the ending first, and then we built towards it. So that's why it holds together through the whole thing, because we actually knew what it was going to be at the end.
Yeah, nice. Is that I want to know, like, because people list it everywhere as like a must read and one of your best works. What do you think makes great horror?
Intimacy, I think, and like making it personal. I think obviously, there's big horror ideas and stuff, but no one is really afraid of werewolves or that kind of thing. You're afraid of the idea, right? The werewolves are about lack of control, and zombies are about a fear of conformity, or actually being afraid of other people, and vampires are the sort of fear of intimacy and all that sort of thing. And so, like, you have to pick something that resonates, I think, with people on a personal level. And so, with Revival, it was a lot of like, the sort of the fear of dying and not knowing what comes after, but then, knowing people that know and sort of being afraid of them because they know something that you can't possibly understand. And we also did a lot of body horror with it, which I think resonates a lot, like the teeth and
Big
the
time.
and that sort of stuff. So it's just like finding, and I think because the series is set in the town I grew up in, it feels very familiar to people because it feels honest, I think. So
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of what makes it work. And obviously it got bigger and the world is involved and all this sort of thing, but it's really just about this people in a small town, specifically one family. So yeah.
Okay, cool. So
Nice.
we get done talking about Vampire Masquerade and then Revival, and we're just going to take a hard left turn here real quick, and we're going to talk about Moneyshot. And so Moneyshot is actually awesome. She calls herself, Rhea is our indie girl, right? So she pushes out Moneyshot. I'm like, yeah, I got to read it. And it's erotic, it's graphic, it's sexual, but in some way, I wouldn't call it erotica at all. So it still has this like humor and this like lightheartedness about it while showing penises and breasts and stuff, right? So it's awesome. Yeah. It's fun. Was that hard to write that? I mean, because we're actually having sex scenes, but it's still a fun comic book without,
I mean, to me, sex is fun.
Sure.
So I'm always surprised when people. It's weird.
Surprised when people are surprised.
Well, we went out of our way to make a book I told people this is a book about porn, but it isn't porn, right?
Right.
So
Exactly.
it has nudity in it, but it's not, because people are naked sometimes, and,
Right.
and like, it's not graphic so much as it is, just, sort of implying things or whatever. But we show shit when we need to, but we don't. It's not about
That's right.
the act of sex. It's not about the graphic. It's about the concept of sex, really, right?
Right.
It's about sort of people becoming intimate with each other, what that does to your relationship with them, and commodifying sex in the same way that we commodify knowledge, and so I think it's about stuff. And obviously, there's fart jokes and dicks jokes
Sure.
and all that kind of stuff too. But it was always meant to be about something. So it's actually easy to do. It's hard to convince people I did it. That's the hard part.
That's right.
Because I think people have, in this country at least, definitely have some weird views, and in your country, in England as well, have some weird views about sex.
She's in Australia.
Convince people that you can tell a story about sex and not embarrass them or make them feel icky is tough. It's a tough thing to do.
No, yeah, and I think that's what it is.
Nice.
What's that?
In Australia, we actually have sex upside down.
Australia.
Same thing.
Yeah.
It's all right. It all sounds the same to me too.
Yeah.
That's right.
But so like my favorite thing about this series is the themes you hit along the way. I love how, like you said already, the sex as a control and the commodification of sex, but then we also get to the planet where like there's a religion or even the rejection of that religion that controls how people view sex, and then we get a little bit relevant. Especially for the United States when they're interviewing the couple who just keeps changing what they believe. So my last question about Moneyshot, by the way, go read it if you haven't read it, people watching. But my last question is, will we get to see President Kirk get his comeuppance eventually?
I mean, yes, of course. I mean, I'm not going to
put it. I just needed to know that.
Yeah, here's a little behind-the-scenes thing with that character. The original idea was that when Sarah and I first started talking about, we're going to put the president there because, obviously their whole thing is that politicians ruin their funding for science, right? So we said eventually they have to encounter the person who fucked up their lives, But our original idea was Kirk is supposed to be what happens after Trump, and our idea was essentially after Trump, in this future, the only way you get in to being a president, and it doesn't matter what party you're in, you have to be a total piece of shit.
That's right.
And the whole thing is that, that basically, like, you're just trying to hurt people that the other people hate, right? That's the whole game of politics in the future of Moneyshot, which is why the scientists get punished, because Kirk comes in and he's like, oh, people hate scientists on my side of the aisle, so I'll fuck the scientists,
There you go.
And so, but then while we were writing the character, like, shit that he would say was happening in real life, because we was sort of right around the pandemic. It was all about science and not listening to experts. And so we had to change dialogue because literally Trump would say the same shit our fictional fucking character was saying about experts and stuff like that. And so it kind of screwed up what we were going to do a little bit. Like, he was supposed to be this sort of post-Trumpian asshole. And he just ended up becoming a guy that we're like, the reality paralleled our book too much. Is basically what happened.
That's right.
I love that. So your goal was to just write this guy as a complete piece of shit.
Yeah.
And the actual acting president kept fucking that up by being.
He wrote to me our piece of shit. But it was like, and Kirk was also supposed to be like, we originally kind of wrote that he would be sort of charming sometimes, that you kind of understand why people liked him. And then while we were writing, we're like, I can't do it. I can't.
That's literally.
That's
I think I have a clear bias. I think we all do, but it shouldn't be my favorite part of the series so far, but it absolutely is. So.
I mean, I definitely learned my lesson about doing satire in a time of very difficult to do satire.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that I would try something like this again because it's so hard to do it. Like, no matter how weird we got, we're like, this is nothing. It's nothing.
That's right. Satire is just reality now.
Yeah.
Right. So it was really hard to do, and I think the way we treat him throughout the story, it'll work. And and it is still about science, right? It's still about this sort of fear of experts and making knowledge a dirty word. And so that's the idea, and so we're sticking with that. But obviously the president played a big part in the why our planet in the story is rejected by this sort of unity of planets and all this sort of stuff. So yeah, so it all plays out. I'm pretty happy with it, and he definitely gets kicked by horses quite a few times in the story.
So you mentioned horses. I've been able to ask this question at least 3 times on the show in the last month. So I think we're onto something here. Have you got any attention from the furry community, given especially how the end of your books have gone?
I don't know. I mean, it's weird. Like
maybe the bronies.
What's that?
Maybe the bronies on.
Yeah, I would think. Like I don't hear a lot about. So Moneyshot seems to sell to a crowd that I don't normally see. Like on Amazon, it's always like, number 1 in the erotica category, and like people buy it online in Comixology. I don't know if it's because they're ashamed to buy it, or they buy it like in trade. So like, people, I don't know. It's weird. Like it has this sort of delayed reaction. So I don't know who's reading it because no one will admit it.
I bought mine in the comic. I don't have it on hand right now, but I definitely.
I grabbed it at the same trip to the store where I grabbed Tina Horn's Safe Sex and Faithless, Brian Azzarello.
Oh, there you go.
So I was just kind of in the mood. I was basically grabbing anything that had boobies.
Exactly.
Kind of going back to that was why I was surprised with yours, because I'm coming off Faithless. I see Moneyshot, and it's about scientists who do porn to save science, and I'm like, my brain's still in Faithless. I'm like, all right, let's open this, and I think that's when the shock came in. I was like, okay, it's not Faithless. Got it. Let's go.
Faithless is pretty dirty, and like about body horror and kind of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's definitely a weird time to do a sex positive book because I feel like people have never been sort of more like straight up horny. It's weird, like, and partially we're all home and we're not out in the world, and like I think everybody's lacking connection, So like, I've never seen such a reaction to a book that people are kind of afraid to talk about it. So it's a crazy book to do. Great. But
I'd call it an important book then. You know what I mean? The way that's forcing people to rethink things. It seems like an important book, even though it's fun and funny and all that stuff. So
yeah, definitely, and it helps to have Sarah on it, because she's notorious on the internet for being incredibly crude. So that definitely helps us, have a brand of our own. That if Sarah Beatty is going to say something terrible in it, nobody's surprised. So
that's right.
That's just like our brand with Robo.
So kind of moving on a little bit. So your Shatterstar miniseries with Carlos Villa is like super fun. Very, very like wild, rambunctious kind of fun. But it has a message about being authentic and surrounding yourself with true friends. What was your goal on this title? Yeah, what were you going for with this with the Shatterstar mini? I think it's like 5 issues.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to make a Marvel book that I wrote that sold, and I failed again. Because
I will not entirely. There is a. I mean, we have a friend on in our Facebook group who's an admin, Ainsley, and this run is very important to her. She's a member of the LGBTQ community, and just having that representation means a lot to her, and I think it means a lot to a lot of underrepresented people. So it definitely has its audience.
Yeah, it's. I mean, every time I do so, I can sell comics at Marvel. At DC and Image, and I can sell them at Vault. And some reason I do a book at Marvel, it's always like, fuck, nobody read it. It's like, here's Ant-Man again, or whatever. I don't know. It's like maybe they just give me characters that don't have major audiences. But part of it was, it was supposed to come out on the heels of Deadpool 2, and Marvel was under the impression that he had a bigger role. And then they saw the movie after we'd written like 2 issues, and they're like, sorry, he doesn't have a very big role. And so
interesting.
So, but like, I mean, I for me that character was appealing because I first read that issue of New Mutants he showed up in when I was 12, and so like, he's cool. He's a badass, sexy alien gladiator,
right?
Whatever, all these crazy things that you can put together. He's cool as shit. And then I think in the meantime, a lot of crazy, like when he was in X Factor, a lot of stuff got added onto him, and it's cool stuff. but it's a lot of stuff. And so I felt like the job was to make him cool and sexy again, and just distill some of that other stuff that's really confusing. Like he's his own grandfather and all this other sort of stuff, which is really a lot of. That's almost too much. So I just figured like, what's this cool story about it? Like I wanted to kind of do John Wick with Shatterstar. Like just do a cool action story, and again I never do anything that's just dumb action, but I like to do dumb action with heart, and so I was trying to do that again. And I think Carlos was amazing on that book, and I really liked the sort of little corner of the universe we made, which is this sort of apartment building for displaced multiversal people. And so I thought it was really fun, and I really liked how it turned out, but I feel like it's one of those things I made that people don't know I made. It's
really good. I would advise people to check it out if you haven't yet, because it's cool.
Yeah. And Ainsley legit has like a Shatterstar shrine in her home, so
yeah.
Cool, yeah.
It was really exciting for her.
And he's a great character, and I'm glad that I liked the idea that he wasn't super, that his preferences sexually or romantically were not super well defined, as like he's an alien. He's on he's attracted to people for very different reasons, and I think it kind of it appeals to people because no one is sort of black and white, really, right? Like everybody's sort of complex in their attractions and their friendships and their romantic feelings. So like I that's kind of what I wanted to distill too. Is like he's like all of us, right? He's a complex person. So
we actually talked to Fabian Nicieza earlier this week. So this is the second Shatterstar conversation we've had.
I love that guy. Very cool.
He's great. We
very,
love
very
him
cool.
too. He's awesome.
I'm going to take us on another turn and talk about hack and slash. And I had the question to the boys where I was like, is it, because when you read stuff, I'm that girl that was reading Harry Potter, saying Hermione one in my head instead of Hermione, you know what I mean? Like it's always hard. Do you say hack and slash? Do you say hack slash slash?
Just hack slash. Just hack slash.
There you go.
Hack
I was wrong.
Thank
I will
you.
say that. I'm recording.
No,
It's okay. I know.
That's great.
I've heard it every possible way. So.
Okay, great.
Have you heard hack slash slash?
I indeed have. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, it's been described as an homage to the slasher movies of the 80s, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Goth Girls, and it's certainly filled to the brim with like serious adult themes while still being pretty action-packed and fun. So I'm wondering what the series means to you, because it's kind of a mix of, sometimes it can be really poignant and like important, I feel, and then other times it's like, fuck yeah, this is like every slasher movie I've ever seen, and it's dope. So I'm curious what in your head it means.
Well, I mean, I think that's where I distilled. You may notice that approach is how I now kind of do everything, right? Like, yeah, it's schlocky and over the top and big, and it's an action movie, but it's a porn butt. Like that's hack slash is where I defined that thing. It's a schlocky horror movie, but
that's right.
which I think, I guess I'm always. I don't know. To me, it's this whole thing of like it bothers me that people judge certain genres or certain kind of stories because they're fun, and they're like, well, it must be stupid, and that drives me crazy. So the original idea for hack slash was, can we do this sort of exploitative, trashy genre, but do it with soul, like give it, and do it smartly, and so that I think to this day I'm sort of the guy who does trash but tries to elevate the characters in the heart of it or whatever, which I try to do on Shatterstar, and try to do on Bloodshot, and try to do on Moneyshot, and try to do it on everything. So, so that's where it comes from. And I think
that's really cool.
I just don't want people to be ashamed to read comics because they're fun. Or anything, or watch a movie or whatever. It's like, not everything has to be, like you said, it doesn't have to be postmodern or a reevaluation or breaking it down. It doesn't have to do any of that sort of stuff. It just has to speak to you and entertain you. And so, maybe I should have done more serious stuff, but, like you said, there are moments of hack slash that are serious, right? Like, but it's just not always that. And I don't know, my life is not always fun or always serious. So, it's a mix. So I try to do stories that I think feel like life,
For people watching too, that's the reason that Tim's on our show. He elevates our trash. So
happy to do it. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So we were preparing for this episode, and dear God, you've done a lot of GI Joe illustrations.
Yes.
I was looking at them. I was to prep for the episode today. I was looking at them, and it was kind of like taking a trip to the '90s, but in a good way.
Fair enough.
There's a bad way.
But no. Well, yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes. There is a bad way. It was in a good way. It was really fun. I love seeing it. It makes me kind of want to read more of that stuff. I've never been like a huge GI Joe fan, but now I kind of want to check more of it out after seeing your stuff. How did you end up doing so much GI Joe? And have you always been a huge fan?
No, I wasn't a fan really as a kid. Well, I liked the comic, but the toys, we had a toy war in my house between my brothers. I was the He-Man guy, and then my brother Brad was the G.I. Joe guy, and my brother was sort of stuck in the middle. And so I always thought, well, G.I. Joe was, like silly and lame because they were tiny, and He-Man was so masculine and huge. And now I'm like, oh, one of them was kind of goofier than the other one. But
that's right.
I was working for a children's book company in Minneapolis. And I had met this dude, Josh Blaylock, at cons in years before, and he got the rights to G.I. Joe for like a song. Like, Hasbro didn't really know what to do with it, and Josh basically convinced them to give him the rights, and they did. And then all of a sudden he was like, "Oh shit, I have a company." And so he knew I had interned at Marvel when I was in college, so I kind of knew how to do editorial scheduling, basically. Like I had worked in the Spider-Man office as an intern, So he's like, I need help. And so he hired me, and so I moved from Minneapolis to Chicago to work on G.I. Joe. But at first I was sort of an editor and a graphic designer, kind of doing that sort of stuff. But then as time went on, I was in the office, and I was always doing art corrections because, things had to match the toys, and Hasbro wanted things a certain way. So it just got easier for me to just draw it because I was right there, and I knew what they wanted, So... it was an awesome time. Like, my first gig was G.I. Joe, which is a pretty well loved, toy line and comic. And so, I had so much fun. I still look back in those days really, really fondly. I got to hang out with Larry Hama a bunch of times, and he created G.I. Joe
cool.
stuff. And basically G.I. Joe, after a while, led to Hack Slash because I got so sick of all the little restrictions that I was like, I'm gonna do something with all the shit I can't put in G.I. Joe, like all the titties and the gore and the everything else. So it worked out just fine.
Sweet.
Awesome.
Nice.
Oh my.
This
I'm excited for Robo to ask this next question.
So, you wrote Alice Cooper versus Chaos. Another. We keep using the word fun. Next time I'll have a thesaurus next to me. But it is.
How about totally rad or tubular?
It's totally tubular. Evil Ernie. Like it was just a lot in there. It was very action packed. But the only question I really have is, did you get to meet Alice Cooper or talk to him?
Yeah, kinda. Well, so the weekend that was supposed to come out, I was at a convention in Connecticut, I think. And Alice Cooper was also there, and his people were like, "Hey, you want to come and meet Alice Cooper?" And and you can stay behind for the show. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. And then something happened. I can't remember why, but he had to cancel the show. So I didn't get to meet him. But then years later at a convention in the green room, he was eating a banana. I was like, hey, we never got to meet. I just want to say it was a real pleasure to work with you. And he was like, oh, eating a banana. So I was like, rock and roll comic book stories.
So you're basically best friends with Alice Cooper. Got it.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah. So that was my story is way less impressive than anybody who's ever got something signed by Alice Cooper, I'm sure. But
I don't know. I would like to see Alice eating a banana.
I saw him live. That was pretty dope.
Well, that's pretty. Yeah, it's better than I got. I didn't even get to see him. So
I've seen him live as well. Fucking amazing.
And all the sort of the chaos stuff, like that's shit I loved as a kid because of monsters and sexy and stuff. So getting a chance to do that stuff was always a big get for me. And then throwing Alice Cooper, I was like, yeah, I can't turn that down. And I got to work with my friend Jim Terry, who is a really good artist. So some of those things, just fuck it, I'm gonna do it. It's fun. I don't give a shit. I'm just gonna
Did you get any feedback from him on the comic? Because I thought it was really funny.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I didn't really. It's weird, like those license things. I'm not working with the licensor directly, working with Dynamite. So I know he likes some of the art, that he likes some of the covers and stuff. But I didn't get like a written note from Alice Cooper, sadly enough. So
Yeah, no, I was just curious. Yeah. I wanted to move us into DC as like one of our last questions, because you've got a pretty extensive DC portfolio. You've written stuff like Batman, Injustice, Nightwing. Hey,
I'm sorry,
kitty.
Rhea. I'm sorry, Rhea. I gotta do this.
hey, kitty.
Oh, no, please do. Also,
okay. It's gonna
apologies
be
for my
edited
cat.
out,
I don't
so.
know what's
Oh,
going
that
on with
was
her
awesome.
this morning. She's just like, hey, what's up? I'm part of the interview. So the one everyone's loving, especially over the last few years, is Grayson. And everyone I talk to adores it. I've seen it on Goodreads, being described as like a James Bond-esque Dick Grayson. Was that your intention? Was that the tone and style that you were going for? Yep.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, so the idea behind that was they just said, what would you do with Dick Grayson as a spy? And so we came up, with this structure that basically allowed us to do like, he was going to be finally he's used to sort of things being black and white. Like he works with Batman and he's a Robin. So, he's a sort of cheery guy. And then suddenly he was going to be stuck in this world of gray, right? Like, people have different motivations because it's all about, sort of state actors and espionage and all this sort of shit. But we thought it would be great if Dick didn't change, right? Like, he's still Nightwing. He's still Robin, basically. Mm-hmm. Like, he's Robin in the world of James Bond, was our approach to it. So, like, when he's sort of tasked with doing something sort of shitty, he figures out a way to do it. He figures out a way to do it that maintains his Robin-like good cheer. So that was our sort of take on it. And we wanted to use all the, DC secret organizations because I love that shit. So, we want to use, Argus and just any Checkmate and all that sort of stuff.
Checkmate,
yeah, and have it, but it just be this guy who's running through it with a smile on his face, like, hey, and that was our approach to it. And I worked with Tom King, who obviously went on to have a pretty good career, and we had a blast. I mean, that was probably the most fun I've had working on something was Grayson, just because it was so, no one really told us what to do, and we kind of just went crazy, and we brought in all this stuff and just kind of surprised people because everyone wanted to hate it. Like Tom and I said, the thing that we heard the most that first year was, I still wanted to hate this, but I actually love it. And I heard that hundreds and hundreds of times. But I mean, that's, again, part of the job, I think, is surprise people. And then also, I think people thought it was going to be a dour, angry book, but it wasn't, because it was about a guy who's not dour or angry. So
speaking of the reception, when I told you we asked, some of the listeners and friends of ours for questions, I'm just going to read this off straight as it is. Carter, also a Twitch streamer, Carter Presents, says, "Don't ask him, tell him," and he put "tell him" in all caps. He needs to do more fun spy books like Grayson. So I don't think you have a choice.
I always think like it actually, if I'm being honest, the structure of Grayson is better than the structure of Nightwing, right? Like Dick Grayson is a great character, but it actually works better in Grayson than it does in Nightwing. Because in Nightwing you have to figure out like, where is he? Why is he not in Gotham? Is Bloodhaven worse than Gotham? Because that doesn't make sense. And like all this sort of shit, and you're basically, and then you just come down to like, Nightwing is just Daredevil, pretty much, right? I mean, Blockbuster is Kingpin, and he's got batons, and like that's kind of what eventually it settled on. I don't think that's what Marv Wolfman came up with, but I think that's what the comic became, But Grayson was like, we could do anything with him, and his connections to other characters totally makes sense. Whereas in Nightwing, it's like he knows everybody, and you can't like sort of bring these people in because it's got to be all, whatever urban gothic vigilante, whatever. It just doesn't. It works better if I'm being honest. So I've always thought DC should bring it back to Grayson. I think it's and you just you'd have a sort of thing where he's your Nick Fury, except everyone likes him. Like it's the opposite of Nick Fury. Like it's not everyone trusts Dick. He just can't trust the people he works with. So it's the anti-Fury. So it's like it would also set you apart from Marvel. I'm still not sure why.
They should listen. You're right. Yeah. That sounds great.
Mean, it's better. But alas, everybody recognizes the blue, and so sometimes it's more about recognition than anything else. So,
Nice. Hey, last one for you, Tim. Any upcoming projects that you'd like us to know about?
I mean, I have a bunch, but they're all secrets.
So you're gonna tell us?
Give us a teaser.
Yeah, I wish I could. I just got the green light on one that's going to be so awesome. It's for one of the big two, and I'm excited about it. But it's gonna be another one of those that people are gonna be like, I wanted to hate this, but I don't. It's gonna be another one of those.
Is it gonna be? Is it gonna be
guess?
fun? Is it gonna be
You
fun?
definitely won't get it. Not this one.
Titania. You're doing the Titania series.
Oh man, I wish that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
That'd be. I love that. That design is so good.
Awesome.
Any sort of big woman that can kick the shit out of a person, I could probably have a good time with. But
That's right.
Yeah.
but no, But so I have a couple of non-comics things that I'm doing. For the first time, I did some film stuff and some video game stuff, but again, it's all stuff I can't talk about. But so I'm keeping busy, and I will have some stuff to announce. But for the meantime, doing monthly. Well, Bloodshot almost the next 3 months monthly, and then Moneyshot, Vampire the Masquerade, and I have. Let's see what's on my schedule as well. Oh, and I have 2 other things. Okay, yes, 2 other things that are not 3 that are not announced that are coming soon. So I have lots of stuff.
Awesome.
One is sort of it's sort of revival-y. One sort of hack slashy. So in that area, I guess.
We'll be looking for it.
Nice.
We'll be looking for it.
That's exciting.
Ladies, gentlemen, Envy, that is Tim Seeley. Tim,
Take
Mr.
this.
Seeley.
Take it. Please take this from me.
Yes.
That is your familiar now. It's yours forever.
Look at that there. Oh,
Look at those
big
eyes.
kitty.
Oh.
I know.
So
Those-
cute.
Oh my
They're
god.
just like, look at this. He's just like this. You can do whatever you want with him. What is wrong
It's like a
with him?
sandwich. It's like a kitty sandwich.
That's so sweet.
Mr. Seeley, thank you so much for your time. For everyone watching, don't forget to wash your hands and wear a mask. And I'm going to say this every fucking time until November 7th. If you're United States of America, register, go out and fucking vote. Just fucking do it. God damn it.
Do it.
See ya.
Because of the threats. Thank you for watching Judah, Robo, and Ree. We talk about comics, movies, and TV. Sometimes we have notable guests, and sometimes it's just us. But we're also cool.